Hi, my name is Todd Jacobsen, Wildlife Conflict Specialist with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Today I'm going to show you how to successfully set up the latest version of the radio-activated guard box, or RAGBox. The RAGBox is a non-lethal tool used to reduce livestock losses to wild carnivores. The RAGBox plays loud sounds and flashes bright lights when approached by a radio-collared carnivore such as a coyote or a wolf. Since radio-collared frequencies for wildlife are often considered sensitive data, your local wildlife agency staff will need to help set up the device. The latest generation of RAGBoxes have features that make this device more reliable and user-friendly, including customizable settings. The built-in Wi-Fi allows these devices to be programmed by phone or laptop in the pasture. They have a data collection option. Data logs with the date and timestamp of each trigger event can be downloaded to track how this device is working. They come programmed with a randomized alarm duration, which provides the option for the alarm to sound for different amounts of time each time the device triggers in an effort to reduce carnivore habituation to the device. The new RAGBox also utilizes a novel notification system. This is a one-way radio system which alerts the livestock producer, ranch hand, or wildlife agency staff when a radio-collared carnivore triggers the device so they can go out and chase the carnivore away from the pasture where the RAGBox is deployed. Now let's look at the components we need and set up a RAGBox together. Each RAGBox comes with 2 loudspeakers, a folding antenna, the notification system radio, and cables to connect everything together. You will also need a phone, tablet, or computer with Wi-Fi enabled. I recommend getting 2 clamps to secure the loudspeakers and having a T-post to ensure the device can be set up at the location of your choice. The RAGBox manufacturer also sells an optional mounting kit with this device to make setup easier on a T-post, wooden fence post, or tree. Lastly, it's helpful to have a spare radio collar on hand to test the trigger threshold in different terrains until you get an idea of how the device will perform. To power the device, you can either plug it into a 110-volt AC wall socket in a barn or house when available with an extension cord, or use a car or solar battery for scenarios where AC power is not available. Car and solar batteries will power the device for roughly 3 to 7 days, depending on how frequently the RAGBox is activated. If you're using a car battery or solar battery without a built-in voltmeter, make sure you have a voltmeter on hand. Solar batteries can be attached to 100 or 200 watt solar panels to extend their runtime. In areas with less sunlight, a 200 watt solar panel is recommended. In an open valley with a clear line of sight, the wildlife radio collar trigger range of this device is up to a 200-yard radius. The notification system radio unit can pick up signals from a RAGBox up to a distance of 5 miles from the RAGBox unit. Because the device operates off of radio frequencies, it is sensitive to electrical interference from things like electric fence and power lines. Try to keep the device away from those sources of electricity. Set up the antenna around head height to get the best trigger range and prevent livestock from rubbing on and disconnecting or breaking the device. Make sure the antenna is straight. It receives radio signals in a donut shape around it, so if the antenna is laying down, it won't be searching for radio signals in your preferred detection area. This RAGBox is set up on a T-post with the speakers above the box so they don't get knocked off. The cords are wrapped around the T-post to prevent cattle from chewing or getting tangled in them. Once you've set up the device in your desired location, test the RAGBox to ensure it is working properly. First, turn on your solar battery if you are using one. Then use the power button to turn on the RAGBox. If the device is working, you will see the test light flash after about 30 seconds. Then you can hold down the test button to verify the lights are working. Now the system is ready to detect radio collars. Next, your local wildlife agency staff member will need to adjust the settings. The RAGBox has an internal Wi-Fi system that you can log into within 10 feet of the device. Open your preferred web browser and type in the RAGBox settings URL. Once it loads, you'll see the RAGBox control panel. Now go to the settings link on your computer or mobile device. This is where you enter the radio collar frequencies, preferred names for the notification radio to identify each collar frequency by, and set the trigger threshold and alarm duration. Since it takes the RAGBox time to search through each collar frequency stored in its cache for an animal's presence near the RAGBox, I recommend putting in no more than 3 collar frequencies at a time. Otherwise, a collared animal may pass through the detection radius unnoticed while the unit is searching through a longer list of collar frequencies. Use the intervals setting to enter the pulse interval provided by the manufacturer for each of your collars. For example, a collar radio frequency might pulse every 10 seconds. You can enter multiple pulse intervals from collars with variable pulse schedules, depending on how the individual collars are programmed. The trigger threshold sets the relative distance the device will detect a radio collar at, while considering electrical interference in the area. The settings range from 2 to 20, with 2 giving you the furthest detection distance and the highest sensitivity. To test what distance will work for you while reducing false triggers, begin by setting the device on threshold level 2 or 3 and monitoring the device for false trigger notifications. I'll explain how to detect and address false triggers shortly. Lastly, set the alarm duration minimum and maximum. This range determines the time length, in seconds, that lights and sounds will randomly go off when the device is triggered by a radio collar. For example, if you set the minimum at 5 and the maximum at 20, the RAGBox alarm will start sounding and will randomly shut off anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds later, each time the device is triggered. As a rule of thumb, the alarm duration max should be at least twice as long as the collar pulse interval. Once you're done adjusting the settings, hit Save on your laptop or mobile device. If the settings were saved and the device is properly configured, the test LED light will flash the number of times the trigger threshold is set at. If the device is receiving electrical interference, the test LED light will flash the number of times corresponding to the trigger threshold, then pulse 2 to 3 times, or pulse continuously. If that happens, start by setting the device on a higher trigger threshold value, such as level 5 or level 6. Hit Save and try again. Note that a higher trigger threshold number limits the distance at which a radio collar can be detected. You can also try moving the device to a location further from the source of electrical interference. If you have a spare radio collar on hand, use it to test the sound, notification system, and trigger distance of your current settings before you leave the area. Close the RAGBox back up and hang it in your preferred location. You're now ready to go. You'll probably need to manage and check on your setup every 1 to 2 weeks to review the data logs and ensure the system is working properly. If you have a small livestock pasture under 60 acres to protect and also have radio-collared carnivores in the area, consider using a RAGBox scare device in tandem with other non-lethal tools in order to keep livestock and carnivores safe. Thanks for joining me to learn how to properly set up this new generation RAGBox.